the more that I can fight to keep that external rotation, the healthier my shoulder is going to be, the easier it is to bench, and the easier it is to get my hands in on the bar when I'm squatting as well. And this is why a lot of powerlifters develop FAI, or femoral acetabular impingement, where they start to lay down excess bone in the rim of that hip and on the head of that femur. And that's why a lot of powerlifters end up with hip replacements on the later end of their career. Hey guys, Dylan Seeley here at the Elite FTS compound. Today we're going to be going over all things shoulder health, running through rotator cuff work, lat work, pec work, you name it. We're getting after it today. One of my favorite things to use to kind of warm up our shoulders right before we bench and make sure we just keep our shoulders healthy overall. So what you're going to do here is get a rack. We're going to throw a band around the top, make sure it's nice and easy when we're not trying to max this out. We're going to step in, put our elbow through, grab up nice and tight and high on this. And all we're gonna do is, we can take it from two positions. The intro one that I like to use at first is just this seated here. And all we're trying to do is we're going to arch our chest up into position, same thing like we're getting set up for this bench. Grab firm here, and then we're thinking armpit to back pocket. And hold this position, trying to shoot for almost that cramp sensation. Drive, and then slowly work our way back up into position here. So again, key with this is I want to add in a little bit more of that extension, because our lat actually creates a little bit of extension here at that hip as well. So if I get into it a little bit tighter, it's just going to drive it that much harder. Now the other little variation you can use is to keep that hip fully locked out to get even more extension through that position. Just grip up a little bit higher now from here. Same thing, knee on this bench, pull in, and it's going to get nice and tight and crampy. So another one of my favorite drills to run through is the lat pull down from an inclined bench position. So we're gonna go chest supported here. And same thing, this is gonna act as our anchor, so it allows us to kind of extend into this a little bit harder, create that arch that we want, and really create a lot of tension in the back of that shoulder. So I'm gonna wrap through, if I can get my arm through it, into this position here, chest supported, pop in, and tight as we can into that position. And we're just shooting for a couple second hold and then work our way back up. Same thing when I coach this, I'm going armpit to back pocket, pop our chest off the bench a little bit. You can even hold here to kind of anchor yourself in a little bit tighter. And we're just shooting for this tight sensation back in here this whole time. So this is going to protect our shoulder a little bit more as we bench. So from that position, I'll usually start into this and then work my way into a Serrano press as well. And the key with these here is I want to keep my wrist above my elbow. So I want to externally rotate as I go down, because as we bench, we're going to naturally want to internally rotate. And that's every big bencher's biggest issue, is running out of external rotation in that shoulder too quick. So the more that I can fight to keep that external rotation, the healthier my shoulder is going to be, the easier it is to bench, and the easier it is to get my hands in on the bar when I'm squatting as well. So we're going to be going over a lot of our rib pelvis mechanics of how we like to stay balanced within a squat. So what I notice with a lot of people is they tend to get stuck in this extension-based strategy. And it's a perfect strategy. You need it to be a very good lifter. You need it to be a very good athlete overall. The problem is when you just get stuck over here. And what I mean by this is you'll see this all the time as people start to squat down and they kind of go a little bit parallel or almost even ass to grass. We see that little hip tuck underneath. Right? And we get taught that it's a really bad thing, but it's actually a protective mechanism that we use to not chew up our hip. And the reason is because if I look at how my femur sits in the socket here, so this is a really shitty drawing of our hip, this femur head is closer to the rim here of the socket. So as I start to go, and if I keep this hard arch, ribs up, this whole thing, I'm gonna compress this much sooner. And so I'm gonna be able to withstand it to a certain degree, and then after that, my body's gonna go shut it down, just tuck our hip or get out of the way. If I don't do that, I'm gonna end up fucking up my hip and laying down more bone over top over time. And this is why a lot of powerlifters develop FAI, or femoral acetabular impingement, where they start to lay down excess bone in the rim of that hip and on the head of that femur. And that's why a lot of powerlifters end up with hip replacements on the later end of their career. All right, because they're ignoring this warning signal. So I'm gonna show you a quick little demo I use. So let me get you lying on your back here. All right. And all we're gonna do is grab this leg here, bring it in nice and tight, and you're just gonna check on yourself, and you can even pull this in on your own self to pull a leg up. And we're just feeling how much tension we have in the front of that hip And then as I move it out to the side, do I get a little bit more wiggle room, space to work with? You can also just throw this leg up on here and make it a little bit easier for you. Yeah. And so as I drag this in, let me know if it ever feels pinchy or uncomfortable, tight in the front of that hip. What are we getting there?
It's feeling tight, but not uncomfortable.
Perfect. Like, so you're actually in a great position for this. Now, if I wanted to add a little bit more room, a little trick you can use if you ever do get that pinch in the front of your hip is big breath in. And you're just gonna have hands on a rib or someone do it for you. Breathe all the way out.
Oh.
And push down. How much tightness do you feel in the front of that hip?
Not tight really, but.
Yeah, different.
Yeah, different, yeah.
Yeah, and it's because as this comes down, I end up almost over here. Now, I don't wanna be butt winking into my squat all the time, but what I can do is at least train my obliques to pull that rib cage down to put me in a better starting position. I think this is why we're seeing a lot of powerlifters transition into this, get into the bar, breath in, breath out, kind of almost stack the rib cage and then re-brace and then either walk it out if you're competing in that or just unrack it if you're in mono. But we're starting to see a lot more of that because people are becoming a little bit more conscious of trying to protect that hip, all right? And if I do get into a spot where it is super tight, I can also just use a lot of my hamstring training, but I'm gonna train it from a shortened position. So if we look at our hamstring here, it's in a maximally lengthened position. And a lot of people will stretch their hamstrings so they feel tight all the time. And with that, the hamstring's not actually tight because it's shortened, it's tight because it's lengthened. It'd be like holding your bicep out here and wondering why it's tight all the time. All right, so what I do in this position is we just drive somebody the other way. We put them in a bunch of short and hammy drills to influence their pelvis, kind of drop them almost like in a hybrid between these two positions. So that way they can still extend under the bar if they need to, but they also feel freed up on the front of their hip. And so one of my favorite drills I'll use for this is I'll take them here, 90-90, or I can do this on a wall against a rack or even on top of a foam roller. And all you're gonna do, grab a hold of this knee, bring it back to you. And what I want, you're going to dig down on me. Good. Keep it there. Now bridge up like 2 inches.
Like my chest?
Nope, yeah, your hips. Pop your hips up like 2 inches. And hold, but let go of the bench. And so now we're just training this hammy in a shortened position. We're rounding our back, so we're taking our back out of the equation. It's really hard. A lot of powerlifters will tend to initiate popping our back up first, trying to come up out of the hole, which is a phenomenal strategy under the bar, but it's not a great everyday strategy. And so by training this a little bit more often, I learned to load my actual leg and create drive from there rather than just extending my back to get that drive. And this will help loosen up your low back tremendously. Good, and you relax, perfect. I'll be up there, you're good.
Oh, thank you. All right. Yeah, I definitely felt it in there in the hamstring, yeah.
It's a little bit crampy.
Starting to like,
yeah, that's the perfect position. And so again, like it's just, the shorter I take it, the more I'm gonna just feel that position. Because most of the time if we're working our hammy, it's always lengthen on one end or the other. Right? If I go RDLs, like I'm lengthening it from up top. Yeah. And then this stays put. If I'm doing a hamstring curl, I'm lengthening it from, on this end here and then shortening it on that end, but I stay put always because I'm fixed to a bench. Here, when you round your back out and you're bringing your leg closer, you're shortening them on both ends. And most people never train that fully, and that's why most people just feel almost crampy in that position as soon as they get into it.
Yeah, I never thought of that, man.
Yeah,
there we go, that's sweet.
But it's a good way to keep your back and your hip healthy.
All right, sweet.
Yeah.